Revenge films.
My name is Ben Jackson. After 4 years of no sexual intercourse, one day my wife said she wanted a second child, and I took her seriously. I met my wife at a party and we spent the night together after a few drinks. That's how my wife got pregnant. She was beautiful and had a straightforward personality. And even though it was a shotgun marriage, I was fine with it. But soon after we got married, my wife and I didn't have any intercourse. After roughly 4 years, I still can only count on one hand the number of times I've had intercourse with my wife.
I actually always wanted a second child. So, what do you think about today?
When my wife suddenly asked me that, I rushed into the shower, washed myself carefully, and went back to the bedroom. In the pitch dark room, I was groping for my wife's location, when suddenly the lights in the room turned on, and there was my wife, laughing, holding a sketchbook with the words, "You've been pranked," written on it.
You're ridiculous. I've got you all fooled. You really are a piece of trash for falling for this trap.
She told me as her parting shot. So I tried to do the same thing back, but with different details.
You're a pathetic little man who only cares about little things like that. And you're disrespected because you're so small-minded that you're willing to fight back. You piece of trash.
She looked down on me, as I knew she would, and I responded in a very calm manner. I just wanted to let you know how it would feel to have the same thing done to you. You're a woman who doesn't know anything about people's pain, and that's why you're looked down on. As I continued, my wife's face gradually turned sinister, and she snapped.
Stop being such a jerk. All you have to do is make money. You should be thankful that a miserable person like you married such a beautiful woman. If you have a problem with me, I'll knock you out.
She went on a rampage in the middle of the night. My child, who was sleeping, woke up startled by my wife's cussing and cried so hard. I evacuated him to a locked room and said a few words to my wife. Now you know how it feels to be called trash, don't you?
No matter how you look at it, I'm in the higher position. I'm not an average person like you. Don't you dare give me your opinion.
She became more hysterical than ever. Then I'll take my child and leave. However, I won't pay you a dime. I also evacuated to the room with my child, but that didn't stop my wife from lashing out.
Come on out! Hey! Running away isn't fair!
She banged and kicked the door and went crazy outside. I thought she was insane. That day, I wrapped my crying child in my arms and wrapped him in the covers and temporarily evacuated him to my parents' house the following day. Later, my wife and her parents apologized, but I brushed them off. I don't want to consider someone who would carelessly call someone trash and trample on their spirit to be my wife. I have my child to worry about, and I can't be with you any longer. My wife said that she thought she could bring her husband and child to their knees if she kept up her strong and superior attitude. Go fix that rotten personality! Also, you often call me a piece of trash, but if I'm a piece of trash and you're told on by me, you're no better. I put the finishing touches on her.
I patiently listened to your silly talk. Who do you think you're talking to? I don't deserve to be called trash by trash.
She was furious, and I silently hung up the phone when I couldn't handle any more of it. It wasn't even worth talking about. First of all, and to make matters worse, my child is afraid of his mother. And from what he's told me about her, I've discovered domestic violence. While I was at work, my child was not fed, was abused and hit for no reason. My wife was ranting about how she didn't do that and that my child was lying. But I decided I couldn't have her around him, and we started living separately. I got the keys to the apartment back and sent my wife back to my parents-in-law's house. But my wife seemed to think I'd snap out of it and she could move back into our apartment sooner or later. But neither I nor my child wanted to see my wife's face. She would come to my apartment and demand that I open the door, or that I was a coward for kicking her out. I called the police, and they took care of it.
Just hurry up and give me my living expenses. Who the heck do you think I am? You're no better than an ATM. You can't beat me if you don't use the kid as a shield. Oh, you're so small.
After that, I recorded all of her outbursts when she called me.
I just hit the kid as a way of punishing him. He's not going to die. The kid is a piece of trash just like you.
After that, I recorded all of her outbursts when she called me. I also collected the evidence of domestic violence that way. I took pictures of all the bruises on my child's body. And just as I was discussing with my lawyer in my apartment, my wife came back and was ranting out front again. She was so noisy that my lawyer told me to let her in, so I let her in the house. Once my wife found out I was talking to a lawyer, she became hysterical and abusive towards him.
It's pointless using useless trash like him. You're both trash for using the law as your shield to fight. You're just bluffing. I'm not divorcing you no matter what you say.
Then she started packing her bags. The lawyer was also about to leave, but before he left, he said, "That's one heck of a wife. You shouldn't be swallowed up by a rant like that, and hang in there until the end." Sometime after that, my wife's parents called me. I guess my wife told them I had a lawyer. "If you're planning on going to court, I'd rather you settle out of court because it takes a lot of time and energy. I'm going to make her agree to the divorce, and we're going to listen to whatever you have to say." My wife's parents were very apologetic, and they really wanted to avoid a lawsuit. But there was no improvement in my wife's attitude, which was the exact opposite of her parents' attitude.
If you want to go to court, go ahead. If they call me for trial, I just won't show up. I'll never agree to a divorce.
She still wouldn't listen at this point. Eventually, my wife was out of the question, so my wife's parents, myself, and my lawyer had a meeting. "I need you to agree to a divorce, give me custody of the child, and promise not to have anything to do with us in the future. Also, I'm going to charge you $60,000 for child support. I also plan to file a complaint regarding the domestic violence against my son with the police." "Domestic violence against our grandson? What do you mean?" My wife told my in-laws about what happened with me, but she didn't want to tell them about the domestic violence towards our son. I had my in-laws review photographic evidence of the domestic violence and recordings of phone conversations with my wife. My in-laws were horrified. After a short pause, my father-in-law opened his mouth. "Of course. Whether you turn her in or not is up to you. But when I think of my grandson, I still want to settle out of court. I don't think it's in my grandson's best interest to have his own mother charged with a crime, even if you divorce her. I hope you understand that I'm not saying this to protect my daughter, but for the sake of my grandson. In the meantime, I'm going to make sure my daughter pays for her actions. We'll obviously step aside for custody, and I'll have her write the contract. I'm so sorry for being irresponsible." My father-in-law got down on his knees. My mother-in-law was crying. So I ended up accepting the settlement. But my wife's parents and my parents are very close, and they asked to see their grandson from time to time. They promised me that they would never let him near my wife, and they paid me $30,000 in alimony and $60,000 in child support in full. They said it was the best they could do as my wife's parents to make amends. After the divorce was finalized, my wife returned to her parents' house. However, my in-laws insisted that as a condition of living with them, she work and give all of her wages to them and leave them in charge of her paycheck.
Why should I have to work? Why should I give you all the wages I work for?
"Well, do you want to leave? You don't have any savings, not even a dime. There's no way you could rent a house. You can leave and live on your own, but we and none of your relatives will co-sign for you. So you won't have a house to rent anyway," my father-in-law told her, and she quieted down. Since then, my wife has been looking for a job, and my in-laws have control of her paycheck every month. My in-laws paid me alimony and child support out of their retirement savings, so they said they collected all from my wife. They said it would take 10 to 15 more years to collect, based on my wife's salary. My wife, who used to spend money carelessly, can't spend money as she pleases, and the amount of money she can spend freely is apparently only $100 a month.
I can't buy cosmetics and I can't have lunch with my friends. This is just torture.
I hear she's ranting and raving. Instead of 10 or 15 years, why not spend the rest of your life paying for the sins you committed against your son?
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.